Hello, everybody. We're coming to you live right here from inside the main build facility of Bubba's Exotic Motorsports. I'm Tom. Entering stage right is the master. Here he comes, ladies and gentlemen. Here he comes, ladies and gentlemen. Here he comes, ladies and gentlemen. I know everybody's waiting for the master Bubba to show up. Here he comes, ladies and gentlemen. There he is, ladies and gentlemen, right there, the master entering stage right. Bubster. And I have no idea what's going on today, ladies and gentlemen. And there he is. Bub, how are we doing today?
So it has been absolutely insane around here today so far. I've been really busy. If you haven't noticed, I've been here since like 5 this morning.
Yes,
and I will tell you what, I didn't even know that we were filming today. Like, that is how much I have been so overwhelmed with work. But I'll tell you what, a lot of great things going on, a lot of crazy rides rolling through here right now. The Major League Baseball season is out, and let me tell you,
the
dude,
players
for the
are
past
hammering you right now.
4 days, it has been nonstop slam between like here to the stadium back, here to the stadium, picking up rides, delivering rides. One of the players this morning literally dropped off and he picked the Porsche up, right? I let him drive the Porsche.
One of the BM Porsches.
He was like, Bub, I got to tell you, like, you guys always take care of me and you put me way over the top. I might be a little nervous driving this one today. I was like, hey.
He certainly has no trouble being on that pitcher's mound up in Cincinnati, does he?
I was like, all you need to know when you drive this thing is don't pull straight into the curb, because you know those cars, the exotics, are super low to the ground, so you naturally have like 2.5 inches at that front lip, so you naturally can't get too close to speed bumps. So I always back all of my rides in. The rear end's high enough right at that rear valance that you can always back in. Even if you go too far, you're not going to hit and destroy a front lip. In those cars, you don't want to mess up those pretty aggressive front ends.
You don't, Bub. In fact, it was crazy yesterday. It was crazy yesterday, Bub. You had a player, this particular player plays for the Marlins, and he lives in Texas. And you, at the end of last season, you had the truck ready. Left, I think, that vehicle is a 2014 Silverado diesel dually. No, diesel single axle. It went to Texas. You saw it this time. Yesterday, we picked it up at the stadium. Man, the thing was all over the road.
It's crazy, man. It's literally
100,000 miles on it now.
I mean, listen, he, you know, he drives that thing a lot. He runs it hard. He drives it hard. And, hey, going from southeast Florida all the way over to Texas, that is not a long haul, but I'll tell you what, that drive from our end east going west is a straight shot, essentially. Once you're at North Florida by Jacksonville, it's just a straight shot going west. But I will tell you, the roads going that way are brutal. They just take an absolute beating on your rides. And this thing is lifted. It's a 2500 HD. It's lifted up 6 inches, so it's got the heavier wheels and tires on it. So naturally, it is putting wear and tear, or more / accelerated wear and tear on like the original joints, like the tie rod ends, the idler arm. And now that was a huge common problem on stock GM vehicles, everything from like mid-2000s all the way up. Those joints failed. They were just heavy duty joints that failed. They took the
arms and things.
60, 70,000 miles. That's about all you got out of those things. And you started getting a lot of play in the steering wheel, complemented with a lot of play in the gearbox from all that heavier wear and tear from the wheels and tires, the increase in weight. So it's just natural things like that. But once you replace them with either factory products and you'll get that same amount, 70, 80, 100,000 miles out of them, or you go with like an upgraded heavy duty. We opted to go with the heavy duty on this thing because it will take a beating. We know from here forward it will. So we did go with a better setup.
And it's crazy too, because a lot of people don't understand, Bub, just how tall these ball players are. You had a very big weightlifter yesterday.
I can't even reach the pedals when I get in these things and like try to move them around.
And they truly do. It's not an ego thing or a show-off thing when they lift their vehicles. You've got one of the another ball player's lifted Jeep out there. They need it, Bub. These guys at 6'5", 6'7".
Well, you know, these guys like to get into their vehicles
and slip right in.
They slip in. They don't want to climb up and they don't want to drop down.
Correct.
And that's kind of like whenever we do these builds for these guys, that's one of the most common requests that we get, whether they have a truck and they want to go down with it, or if they have maybe a truck and they want to go up with it, or a car, whatever it may be, they always want it to be at a height where they just slip right into the seat at that natural like leg reach going in. What are you doing? Why are you dicking around back there?
I'm actually turning this down, Bub, but I want to start responding to the comments. Of course, Bixby comes up, man. God, I hate this.
Bixby.
I hate this friggin' Bixby, man. And they loaded it on these phones, and there's nothing you can do. You know, okay, let's.
I'm just gonna hang out here while you're.
There we go. All right, let's start hitting some of the. No, Bob, go ahead.
I'm done. My whole conversation's over.
I wanted to follow up with you. You were saying they either want to get up or down. For example, tell people when these guys crawl into these vehicles. Literally, Bob, how they, I noticed that brake fluid was leaking over there. Tell them how they crawl into them. They crawl into the seat towards the driver's side, passenger side, and then reverse themselves down into the seats.
Yeah, most of the time.
It's amazing how big they are.
Yeah.
And we had a guy tell you in the gym yesterday just how big you are. People don't understand how solid you are. And he said you're probably the biggest guy in the gym. And now you take these guys that are 6'5" and 6'7".
No, they're pure monsters, man.
You don't have an idea about how tall that is till you're dealing with them every day.
Yeah, no, I mean, anything over like that 6'5", 6'7", 6'9", I mean, these players are massive, and they're, you know, they're thick. They're not skin and bones 6'5", 6'7", 6'9". These guys they're thick monsters. So it's, you know, they need some room.
It's crazy. Bub, we're getting a lot of people jumping in here right now. Some people are saying, of course, you know Jack Blass. What's he saying, Bub?
He wants to know about this chopper sitting here.
Good morning, Jack. How are we doing today?
This is almost something, Jack, that we need to know personal preference on, trike or not.
And that's what we're going to talk about. Of course, Bub, this episode is sponsored by Orange County Choppers. Orange County Choppers are choppers.
Done Bubba style.
Right on. I think you've got an announcement to make.
Not to be confused.
A little bit today?
With this big dog trike. So there's no correlation there at all. It just happens to be that we're going to be discussing choppers, and there is some stuff coming on out of the OCC side, so some crazy things there.
I know you can't talk much about it, but Bub Mark Hoffman, the BEM dirt track driver, says, good morning, Tom and Bubba Lloyd. Big money is inside in the air conditioning right now.
It is freaking hot here.
Your brother says, beautiful, Bub.
So we need to talk about this, right? So trike or not, I want to know personal preferences. My personal preference, absolutely not.
Okay. Well, we're going to talk about it. And by the way,
what do you mean you keep saying we're going to talk about it? I'm trying to talk about it. You keep shutting me down.
Spanky says good morning to my great friends at BEM from the only other father and son team at Spanky's Hot Rods and Customs. We're hard at it today. So also getting some cool stuff done on the road. By the way, ladies and gentlemen, around the world, I wanted to share with you, it's official. We broke another record here with 10.325 million viewers around the world with our 2 #1 rated shows. The press release hit the wires yesterday, hit CBS, ABC, and everything we found out this morning. We want everybody around the world to go out and check out Spanky's Hot Rods, man. He and I have been friends since the Indianapolis show about 10 years ago.
Long time, yeah.
He's a great cat, Bub.
Yeah.
Chopper versus trike, Bub. I got to know about this. This is one you're finishing a build on. You've still yet to hand fabricate the rear end of this thing. Choppers and trikes are 2 very different animals to ride. Can you tell us why, please?
So it's totally different, man. It's a different feeling. It is a, you know, driving. Okay, let's start off with basics. Driving a motorcycle is a different feeling in itself, being on 2 wheels, you know, and that changes whether you are on a heavy touring Harley bike that's all stock configuration, or if you are on a completely stock crotch rocket, you know, like that shorter frame, that leaned over style, the handlebar radius that turns totally different. Every one of these things has a different ride and a different feel, even down to its turning, just the way you would maneuver through a parking lot. Like, do you lean the bike? Do you turn the handlebars? There's so many different things.
Okay, to that point, Bub, you're a very, very, very skilled and accomplished rider. When people are
way better than you.
Way better than me. We were talking
Any
on a
day.
group chat with Paul Sr. last night, right? Remember that?
Any day.
And we were talking about my first accident, which involved a tree with a Honda CB125 in 1975. But then Senior started chiming in about some of his excursions too, right?
Pretty good.
And then you chimed in about stealing the truck. Nate, do you remember when your brother stole the Ranger and just forgot to put it in drive after he got done driving it at like 12 and it rolled down the hill and hit the neighbor's car?
I don't know if he remembers that.
Yeah, I don't know if he remembers that. But anyways, Bub, when you talk about steering a motorcycle, what are we talking about? I mean, are you going like this? Are you leaning your weight? Or what's the proper way to get a motorcycle to corner?
Naturally, when you're going through corners, you're doing it more of a, to me, I always feel like it's more of a lean than it is a turn of your handlebars, but you are naturally also turning your bars, just not severe, right? You're doing it just enough to kind of kick the bike over, but you're using, the bike is naturally going to want to pull itself along if you're in that throttle.
It's a gyro.
So if you're not in that throttle, the bike's going to kind of want to lean harder and almost fall over more. If you stay in the throttle, it's going to want to stand up more, it's going to want to pull itself through. So it's a combination of not just your body weight lean, what your body's doing, but also your steering with the bars. Just a small amount. You don't want to go freaking overboard with the thing.
That's where the people get in trouble.
And then those are the guys that you can't see like hold a solid line within a lane. You know, they're all over the freaking place because you know they're using too much bar, they're leaning too much, and they panic and they pull back and they turn the bar the other way, all over the place. So it's a combination of those 3 things. So it's what you're doing with the clutch and throttle control, especially at slower speeds.
Yes.
Your rear brake operation if you're moving around very, very slow, plus also your leaning and what you're doing with the bars. Now, on a trike style setup, totally different design. There's no lean. So it totally takes all of your riding experience if you've only ridden 2 wheels and changes it right out of the gate, because naturally you want to turn, you want to lean into a corner a little bit. You don't lean on a trike. You have to literally turn the bars. And that's a totally different ride style when you're naturally used to maybe, you know, a ½ inch here or there to get into a corner and lean it, versus to turn this thing, you've got to push as far as you can possibly push and kind of work the bike in its angles. So totally different ride style, totally different design. Some people like to go to trikes, whether it be from a, you know, maybe an injury, a leg problem, a back problem.
Correct.
Maybe they can't lean. Maybe they just can't lift the weight of the motorcycle up off of its side stand. And this is one of those things where, like, this is it. You don't have a kickstand. There's no issues at all. You just ride the sucker. It's a little bit easier. But turning it's a totally different feeling to do this.
Jack Baez says, up in Canada, our good friend who's big with the choppers says, not his style, but it is nice, Bub.
Good.
Mark Hoffman, the BM dirt track driver, says, Tom Lloyd, there's going to be a podcast tomorrow morning. If so, I'll call in. Charles Neal is watching. Good morning, Charlie. Where are you watching us from? Bub, to your point, we call on 2-wheel motorcycles, we call what you're describing counter steering. It's basically pulling down and putting your weight in on your right hand if you're turning and pulling up with your left, and the opposite is true on the other side if you're turning left. On this, you're now having to use your arms to do what you need to do.
Yeah, it's you know, it's a totally different feeling just moving these things around, just even at slower speeds, and same thing goes with higher speeds. It's just totally different because you're not doing that natural lean that your body wants to do when you approach a corner. You're just literally moving your shoulders and arms, and it's a totally different feeling for anybody that has never done that style of riding. So
on trikes, Bub, is it necessary to lean?
No, not at all. Okay. It's not going to do you any good.
Okay.
You're not going anywhere. It's a solid axle setup in the rear. You're still riding on a full front and rear suspension. It is a soft tail design, this setup is. So you still do have that comfortable ride, but again, this just makes it easier in terms of the leaning factor. Now, the leaning factor even on choppers is a little bit different than, say, like a stock rake and neck of a Harley Davidson, or even a, you know, European make, Asian make, doesn't matter what it is. Just the rake alone, going to an extended style fork or swing arms in the rear, all of that stuff changes. Anytime you change lengths, you change heights, all of that is going to change the way you do your handling, the way you do your cornering, the way you do your slow speed maneuvering, and all of them come into effect. When you get on a crotch rocket that's super, super slammed to the ground and stretched out really long, that sucker does not want to turn around very easily.
It doesn't.
And trust me, it takes work for, you know, a lot of guys like to master the art of working in a friction zone. There are truly bikes.
Aha.
There are
friction zone.
Right, so where, like, you see these guys that, you know, naturally if you're a professional rider, you can do a friction zone on a stock style bike, not extended swing arms, not stretch rakes or necks or anything like that. You can typically do those in under 8-10 feet in terms of U-turns and, you know, working around using your clutch, gas, and brake all combined together at a certain combination. You can literally make those U-turns incredible. Now, there are bikes that are so modified that you cannot do it physically. You have to put your feet down and you have to walk that bike through its corner, because there's just that certain angle it's going to get to that it's going to lay over.
So, Bub, when we talk about the friction zone, tell us exactly, if you were sitting in the seat on the saddle of a motorcycle, what would the friction zone be and what does it allow you to do?
So your friction zone is, as you know, working with a manual transmission style setup, when you have a controlled clutch assembly that you can actually operate, not something that's centrifugal based. A friction zone is the spot where, say for example, you're in first gear, pick any gear, doesn't matter. Typically operated though in first or second gear is your friction zone. You do that typically only at slower speeds. That is that spot where, as you're engaged in gear, whatever it is, first or second, when you go to let the clutch out, it's that moment that you start feeling the bike pull.
Yes.
But you're not allowing the motor to drop low enough so that it's lugging around on itself, right? You're riding right in between that sweet spot. And then what you're doing is the bike is trying to pull forward, which is what you want to do that slow speed maneuvering. Again, if the bike's
Correct.
not pulling, it's going to want to just fall over.
Correct.
So you want the bike to be pulling forward. Naturally, you're going to want to give it a little throttle to work with that. Most people go double the engine RPM. So if your idle is 700,
yes.
1400.
Yes.
So in that same time, you know, that same little area right there, if it's 1,000, go up to 1,800 to 2,000. You work those two spots and you stay within them. And then what you're going to do is, while the bike is trying to go away from you and pull, to control that speed, you're going to work the slight friction of your rear brake, and that's actually going to pull the bike backwards. And the combination of those three skills combined will literally allow you to take that bike and lay it as far over as you possibly want, and it will pull itself right back up.
And Bub, not to mention, you can truly tell the skilled riders, ladies and gentlemen, at a stoplight. Watch the person who can sit at the light without putting their feet on the ground. I can do it. You can do it.
Every time you do it, you fall. You try to act like you're some professional, and we pull up to a light, and there you go, you see his headlights down on the ground.
I reach in my saddlebag and I grab out my woo-woo and I put it right on the windshield and I let it sit there and spin in blue colors like I'm a woo-woo guy, and then I just fall.
This is honestly no joke. Like, this guy wants to be a professional rider, and he loves to think that he is. 80% of the time when he tries to show off his professional skills, he falls. So
I did it in the parking lot 2 weeks ago.
This will happen in parking lots. This will happen at a gas station.
Happens in my driveway.
This will happen in driveways.
It does.
This will happen sitting at stoplights. He will pull up. Everyone else is calmly sitting there because the light is definitely freaking red. Well, Mr. Impatient thinks he's going to come up and try to stay in his friction zone until the light cycles through green, and through yellow, and through red. He tries to ride this whole deal out, and before you know it, he's laying on the ground with his bike on top of him, and I got to go back there and pick him up in the middle of the freaking road.
I've done it right in front of your house.
He's done it pretty much everywhere.
I have. Good morning to Chris Bollinger out there. He's a Harley rider, Bub, as well. He says good morning, Bub and Tom.
So we have a lot of mods that we have to do here. So this thing is a big dog chopper, not an OCC built bike. This is just one that was built by one of our local guys here. Super, super huge fan and supporter of BEM. Also a really good friend of ours, as well as Billy Lane's. So we are going to go through this thing and do a complete custom fab rear end design on this thing. This guy went ahead and he did a Frankenstein trike conversion on this thing for the client, the owner of this bike, to make it a little more simple for him to ride, just so he can go out and enjoy it. He doesn't want to deal with putting his feet down. He just wants to be able to get on something, shift gears, rip through the gears, and have that great look. So he's got it. Now we're going to go ahead and fab a complete hand designed and drawn up from BEM sheet metal rear end for this thing, and go through, get all the paint and body done, and do something super, super wicked back there.
So Bub, kind of share with everybody, as they see the rear end of this thing that you're going to be redesigning and building, share with everybody kind of what your thoughts may be.
Well, so this is an open canvas. You're working with what you're looking at here as the original big dog chopper running all the way down the center. Then the Frankenstein conversion was put on, the trike setup with the solid axle. That was bolted to the factory swing arm of the big dog setup, which is a Softail design frame. What we're going to do is get rid of the center fender here, which was the original big dog design. That's why you can see it with the factory paint, all the LEDs, the strut braces. We are going to start by doing 2 mock-up fenders that are going to sit over the custom wheels and tires on each left and right side. We'll start with those fenders in place there, and we'll start just building a skeleton of what looks really cool from a design standpoint, to either loop it in and down, and then we will just take it and wrap it all the way down the rear, whether we carry them into a single point, whether we do 3 points, whether we do teardrops. That is all open for design once we start putting on all of our skeleton design first with our framing, and then we'll just do some cardboard layouts and templates, stand back, look at it, and then make it out of metal.
Bub, when you said to everybody earlier that this is a live axle rear, could you tell us what that is, please?
I never said live axle. Where did you get that crap from?
That's what you
said.
said.
Solid axle.
So, oh, I'm sorry. When you told us, Bub, that it was a solid
meaning this whole side is solid all the way through to that side. It's not independent.
So a solid axle, Bub, refers to what?
It's one solid axle from the left wheel to the right wheel. Not like some of today's vehicles you get into, like today's Corvettes. They're independent style suspensions. Today's Mustangs, independent suspensions. Those are when you have a center carrier and then you have flexible half shafts off the left and right sides that would go out to your hub bearing, your wheel assemblies. That would be an independent rear suspension. This, being a solid axle design, is a one-piece solid axle from the far left to the far right.
Hey, Bub, let's talk a little bit about the fuel management system on this particular bike. It is a little bit older technology there. Share this with us and take us kind of through it. I'll zoom in on it if you'll take us to it.
So this one's actually not bad, man. This is a true big dog setup. So this is an S&S motor. This is probably running a big dog trans, but sometimes they had these things comboed with Baker transmissions. There are a couple other big names out there in the industry, but a lot of these kind of mid-2000s era choppers were built based off of S&S and Baker combos. They were a great setup, but I will tell you what the #1 most important thing is: getting all of that stuff set up properly so that that motor works with that trans, with that belt drive, with that gear setup. That was key, and that's where a lot of guys screwed up. Nobody took the time to read the instructions to properly adjust the shifter pawl on in between first and second gear and neutral, so that you'd have a hard time getting these bikes to pull the clutch in, to find neutral. They would get stuck in first. They'd be hard to get around from first to second gear. It was a very clunky shift. If you took the time and you set them up properly and you followed all these manufacturers' instructions, you set the motor timing right, you set the carb up properly from S&S, whether it's an E or a G series, all of that stuff took into account, and you could make this thing be a total dream.
Hey, Bub, you hear people throw terms around while they're sitting out talking with the beer. I've got diamond cut heads, and I got diamond cut cylinders on my bike. What are they talking about?
So that's actually, it's a really cool, you know, it's an aesthetic feature. It looks, it does nothing for the actual performance of the bike, but this one actually is a diamond cut setup. It is the way the edges of the cylinder head fins are milled, and they actually give the illusion of a diamond style because of the way the sunlight hits them. It does create an amazing jeweled style sparkle effect.
And Bub, does this incorporate hydraulic clutch technology, or what kind of technologies are incorporated?
This one is actually just a cable operated setup. Not too hard for what it is. Again, your clutch is always going to be as hard as the pressure plate that you put towards it. And all of that changes with the size of the motor that you're running. So if you run a 97, 103, 110, now we're getting up to 120, 125, 131s. All of these motors are going to require different demand clutch plates, just like a car. You build up more horsepower, you're going to need more pressure to hold that clutch so it doesn't slip under wide open throttle.
On today's cars and trucks, though, Bub, what we notice is there is the graduation of the clutch assemblies is very smooth today. Even the higher pressure or tensiled clutches are very easy. Have they been able to transfer that technology into bikes yet?
So it's getting there. It's I feel like we're definitely getting there in the bike side. The automotive side has definitely mastered it. You know, today's cars are typically done with hydraulically operated clutches, which is what you want. So your clutch, the mechanisms, the design of them, the clutch disc, the pressure plate, it is all still the same as it has been for many, many years. It's the way it's actuated. So between your pedal, your foot, and the arms associated with it, the length, the pivot points, and the hydraulic pressure, the size of the line, the size of the bore of the master cylinder, all of that stuff is going to change how easily smooth that clutch operates, no matter what you put in it, whether it's rated for 200 horsepower, or whether it's rated for 2,000 horsepower, it is all affected by that hydraulic setup.
Paul Sr. said, thank you, Tom, for talking about Orange County Choppers today. Of course, Senior, it's no problem at all, man. That's what we're here for. They're very, very good friends of ours. God, what a train wreck those people are.
Yeah, you know, it's just the way we roll.
It is the way we roll, isn't it? And the stories that go back and forth, Bub.
Yep.
Absolutely amazing. Did you see Bub the other day, the video he put up where he made a pipe bomb?
Yes, I watched this on Instagram.
Share that with everybody.
Yeah, so you know, that's what happens. Sometimes you just get a little carried away. You got to make a pipe bomb and you got to blow some stuff up, and that's exactly what Senior did.
So let's see. So what happened was it was almost like a rain gutter or something, wasn't it? And he took
I don't know, but he just made like a self-designed cannon. It's pretty good.
Did you see the door that, I'll bet Mikey did it with big red letters that said danger on it.
Yeah.
Right? And he fills this thing up with acetylene gas and then strikes the match and then hits it and the thing and just blows through the windows and everything.
I mean, that's the way to do it. If you're going to blow something up, you got to go all the way.
It's so funny to watch that stuff happen. But it's kind of typical about what goes on around here as well, Bub.
Yep.
So bike versus trike, Bub. Which do you prefer, or do you not have a call?
So I'm not trike.
Okay.
Like it just, any other bike I will get on and I will ride it. I will ride a crotch rocket. I will ride a drag bike. I will ride a chopper. I will ride a, you know, an American design. I will ride a Japanese design. I will ride a European design. I will ride anything you could possibly imagine. I am just not a fan of trikes.
Is it just because they're harder to ride, or is it the style?
No, it's just, to me, I don't like that feeling. I want to be able to ride the bike and actually like have some control of the bike. This you're riding the bike, but it's like you're just holding a handlebar is all you're really doing. You're not leaning the bike. You know, you're not able to get into your corners like you want to get into them. And whether or not you want to get into your corners, that's some of the fun stuff, right? Well, you don't do that with this. You drive in the center of the lane. You don't really have anybody riding next to you because of the width of it. So you're just kind of riding in the center lane, and it's like driving a Jeep with the top and the doors off. That's kind of all it is.
Interesting perspective.
You're just driving.
It still kind of gives you some, you know, out of the box. You know, it gives you some air.
This is my personal opinion.
It's mine. No. I agree with you. I'm a two-wheel guy too. But you know,
you should be a three-wheel guy.
I should be a four-wheel guy.
Probably.
With training wheels.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
2 training wheels that come down under the front doors. They look like aircraft or airplane wheels.
All right, I gotta go. This is enough of this.
The hydraulic ones that come out of the wings.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. You need training wheels on everything.
I do, Bub. How about that? So I'm gonna go with bike as well, Bub. But as you get older, the trikes are a good alternative for people who are older but still want to retain their ability to get out and ride.
Listen, I guess it could be worse. It could be that freaking Can-Am with the 2 wheels in the front. I mean, come on.
That's pretty ugly.
At that point, you might as well go buy a slingshot and cruise the beach.
Well, we've got one of those out there too.
Wrecked.
Bad. Badly.
All right, I gotta go.
And then there's a story behind that.
It's like 11:30. I gotta go. Thank you guys for watching. If you haven't seen all the crazy stuff we are doing, go to our website, bubbasexoticmotorsports.com. Scroll down on the far left side, you will literally see Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, whatever it is you guys use for social media. That is the stuff that we update literally on the fly. So whether it's hot stuff going on in the shop, whether it is new product releases from all of our major sponsors out there, whether it is sneak peeks, behind the scenes, stuff getting exploded, stuff getting wrecked.
How about the stuff we wrecked this week?
Yeah, that's where you can see it.
Go out there and see the Instagram posting. I'm out there with the printer scanner that didn't exactly make me feel warm and fuzzy, shall we say.
By the way, there's nothing more than a software update that needed to be done, but he won't update any of his software.
Nope. So the next thing you know, I hear Bub firing off Senior's Polaris, and I see Bub coming out like a monkey going, yay! And you better move, Dad. And as soon as I get out of the way, he goes right for it. Glass goes everywhere. It's on Instagram. You're going to like that. It's out there at Bubba's Exotic Motorsports, Bub.
That's it.
We like bringing those films to you. Ladies and gentlemen, that's it for this episode of Doing It Bubba Style. And Bub, until next time.
Yep, next Friday, keep on doing it Bubba style.
And ladies and gentlemen, we also want to thank you for making us #1 in the ratings. Go out there, you'll see the press release. It's just hit the wires. 10.325 million viewers and listeners around the world. That's phenomenal, ladies and gentlemen. And we can't thank you enough. We live to bring this stuff to you and just have kind of a fun, spirited time with it. You guys got to keep an eye on what Orange County Chopper's doing. Paul Sr., Joni, Mikey, Nick, the whole crew up there, man. It's always mayhem. Trust me, it is. Bub alluded a little bit to a big announcement coming out. Yes, I can confirm there is a big announcement coming out. BEM and OCC will be telling you all about that, and you will be able to physically experience this particular, what we've been working on behind the scenes on November, what's the dates of Exotics on Los Salas, Bub? November 11th or 13th? On the 13th of November on the huge Exotics on Los Salas. The Tuttles will be here joining us live in the Monster Energy tent. I will tell you that for the Exotics on Los Salas car show, and you will be seeing something very special coming out of Orange County Choppers and BEM. It's going to be amazing, ladies and gentlemen. You don't want to miss this. Book your tickets, get on an airplane, and come join us. Hang out. It's going to be a great time. Really good time. Let's reach out to touch somebody's life in a really positive manner today, ladies and gentlemen. Please open the door for somebody whose hands are full. If somebody has holes in the bottom of their shoes, put shoes on their feet, ladies and gentlemen. And if somebody's standing on the corner with a sign that says, "We'll work for food," saw a gal, no question in my military mind that she had just run upon some really bad luck. She was pregnant. You could tell there was no drug addiction. You could tell that she was really, really down on her luck, and we gave her a hand. And that's what you need to do, man. Source it out, look at it, make sure you feel comfortable, and feed somebody. Right there, Citgo, 7-Eleven, any of those places, man. There's food marts all over the place. Chevron, Shell, take them in. Power Bar, protein drink. It's cheaper than your designer cup of coffee, ladies and gentlemen. And until next time, from the ladies' man, Big Money Diesel, the master himself, Bubba, and myself, thank you for making us #1. Let's keep on doing it, Bubba style.